Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name's Tamara Hynd. I'm the museum curator at Shellharbour City Museum, which is part of Shellharbour City Council. Shellharbour City Museum was formerly known as Tongara Museum, and it was located in Albion Park, which is a western suburb in Shellharbour City. Not really accessible. We were at the time staffed by me, who was 4 days a week, not full-time, so that's the first mistake in the slideshow. I was 4 days a week and I had a team of about 6 volunteers. So we were only open to the public 2 days a week because of staffing. So our collection includes about 2,000 objects. It includes artefacts, photographs, oral histories, maps, lithographs and historic documents, all relating to the history of Shellharbour City. And the services we provide are exhibitions, but a lot of internal and external research services, not only for customers that walk in the door wanting family history and local history research services, but a lot of internal research services for council, for the DA section, for building, for town planning, for GIPA requests, for records. That's a major part of what we do. We also do exhibitions, public programs, and a whole bunch more. So in 2016, we were given the go-ahead to move facility. So this had been a project that had been in the works for council for about 20 years, which is usually the way it goes. But we had a new general manager at the time appointed, who'd just been appointed, and he looked at the project and he said, "Come on, let's just do this." And we went, yes. So he gave us the go-ahead in 2016. It was a brand new build, so the building had to be constructed. It took about 15 months to construct, so we had about 15 months to get ourselves together to move to the new building. And during the move process, we had to deliver services as usual. So we had to keep doing everything we were doing, plus move the building. So I've got Tamara's tips on each slide, and my first tip is to remain calm. So you might think, oh, did I do that right? Oh, there you go. So where to start? Like when you're told you're going to move, you sort of go, ooh, that sounds like a lot of work. And it is. So what we did first was we broke down into our key actions. What were the things that we knew we had to deliver in the new building? So we knew we had to deliver a permanent exhibition space, a temporary exhibition space, a Signet Avenue window installation that I hadn't counted on, a heritage centre. We had to have our collections database up to scratch. We had to deliver a museum tour on our Tread Shellharbour app, which was already existing. We had to pack the current museum storeroom contents. We had to develop a plan for the City Museum storeroom, our new storeroom. We had to develop a website because at that time we only had a page on council's website, which was pretty how you going, as local government websites usually are. And we had to rebrand and we had to market ourselves because we were moving and we were changing our name. We had to actually move and we had to set up the museum. So Tamara's tip here is to start early. Heaps of people said to me at council, because I literally started, when they said, "You're moving," I said, "Okay, we're starting now." And people at council were saying, "What are you starting now for? You've got so much time." I just completely ignored those people and carried on. And I'm really pleased I did, because had I not, we just wouldn't have delivered it on time. So the first thing we did before we even started to break down those actions into tasks was to think about what we wanted our permanent exhibition space, because that was our key space. We thought about what we really wanted that to be. So we thought about what themes and stories we wanted to tell, what objects we wanted to showcase, and obviously our most significant objects and the ones that tell the best stories. We thought about who our audience was. We thought about the space we had to work with, which was really difficult because at that stage we only had a floor plan. And it wasn't just a floor plan of the museum, it was a floor plan of the whole civic centre. And we also thought about how we wanted the space to feel. So we knew that the building was going to be a really modern building, a really contemporary building, but we really wanted a blend of old and new. Because people don't want totally old and musty museums, but I don't think people mind a bit of old and musty. That's why I like going to a museum. So we wanted a real blend of old and the new. So once we'd sorted that out, then, whoops, I keep pointing at that, not that. Then we started breaking down into the key tasks. So first we tackled the permanent exhibition space. So what were all the things we needed to do to deliver that exhibition space? What we had to do was write all the content for the interpretive panels. So they were the panels that you see down the bottom that were going behind our display cases and on our walls to tell our stories. We had to develop, design and print all the graphics for the interpretive panels. We had to choose a great signage company, and I'm going to give a plug, Simpson Signs, Eric, my hero. I couldn't have done it without him. He was so patient. I'd ring him up every day and go, "Hi, it's me again." Can you just, you know what I told you to do yesterday? Yeah, can you just scrap that? Yeah. I'm changing it. So we had to write, design and print all the object labels. Which seems like a pretty easy thing to do, but it's really not. We had to repurpose and redesign existing collection items. So there were some things that were kind of broken, didn't have a lot of significance, but still looked really cool. And we thought we could use those in the new space. So one example was like we had a small panel of an old cedar door from one of the farmhouses in Shellharbour. It still had the key in the lock. So I got my carpenters and my boilermakers at council to turn it into a coffee table. We did things like that. We had to develop we also had to repurpose and redesign vintage exhibition cases that we had. We had to develop a floor plan for the display case layout. We had to develop an exhibition plan for each display case, so what items were going to go in each display case and what stories was going to be told in each display case. We had to pack all the contents needed for the permanent exhibition space in one section of the museum, because we had to do all of this in a museum that was still open to the public, which was a bit of a challenge as well. So we grouped all the objects required for one cabinet and we packed them accordingly into one box. And then we colour-coded every box according to the cabinet. And we had to also develop some object mounts, which I got my boilermakers to do at council because it was just easier. So when all you have to work on is a floor plan and the best volunteers, that's the floor plan I had to work on. And to me, that just literally told me nothing. I looked at that and went, I don't know what that means. So I had an excellent museum volunteer, Kevin, who was part of the Shellharbour Woodworkers, and he said, I can build you a model if you like. And I went, that'd be great. So he went home in his workshop and he built me a 2-scale model, and he even built me, see these little things? They're the little display cases. 2 scale. So he bought this in, and at first it scared the hell out of me. But actually it was the most useful thing ever, because we could put it on the table and we could get down and look and see how it would look when people were walking through. We could change the layout, and actually we completely changed the layout of what we were initially thinking when we saw this. So, yeah, thank God for Kevin. Yeah, he was my hero there. So what was next? Next we had to plan the exhibition display cases and the drawer layouts. So what we did, using a Bunnings table, because that was about our budget, in our old building, what I did was, you can see the masking tape there on the table. So I actually masking taped out all the dimensions of the cabinets on the table, and I set up my exhibitions depending on the case size. We had that bit of cardboard at the back, which Kevin held up according to the height, because we had to think about the height of the display cases as well. And then what we did was, when we were happy with the arrangement, we took a photo of it, which I later printed out. This was really useful for my graphic designer as well. We used our graphic designer at council, but this really helped her know how big to print the object labels and how they were going to look in the cases. This was, you'll note also that in my little picture up there, oh, yeah, I'm just putting the wrong one. That's all right. In my picture here, I'm now holding a glass of wine because It was at this point in the process that the wine had to come out. And it pretty much stayed out after that. So that was huge. That was a huge job, and you have to be prepared to be flexible, because a lot of things that I had initially planned, they just didn't work, and you just had to go, no, you just got to forget it and move on to the next thing. So this is just an example of the kind of the stages. So number 1 is our little photo at the old building of the layout. Number 2 is the layout in the case with the interpretive panels installed in the back. And number 3 is a picture of it in situ today. And that's a picture of Belinda, our graphic designer. In that photo, she's a bit like a dentist. She can't show you her face. So my only tip there is to, just be flexible. Be flexible. So the next slide is packing the permanent exhibition space. This was also fun. You'll note the wine is still out. So we packed objects for each individual display case in a separate archival box, which I was saying before. That was the best thing we could have done. We packed all the tools we needed to set up the permanent exhibition space in one box. Also a good move. So I had everything. I had hammers, sticky tape, blue tack, museum wax, gloves, everything in a box. And it was the best thing I could have done. We also packed, where we could, all the props and the object mounts for that display case in the same box. It wasn't always possible, because you can't put them with breakable objects, but wherever possible we did that. So everything was in the one box. We checked off each item as we packed it, so that's my little spreadsheet there at the side. We included the photo that we'd taken of the layout of the case in that box, and then we colour-coded the boxes and labelled them according to the floor plan, which I made, which is that. Very simple, but we made it for the removalists, and on removal day, I tell you, it was the simplest thing, because anyone can understand that map. Red goes with red, purple goes with purple, and yellow goes with yellow. Tick. It was done, and it all worked really, really well on the day. We also had to repurpose collection items and exhibition cabinets before the move. So we had some printers drawers, which we repurposed for our Aboriginal cultural heritage material. And we also had some old card cabinets, which again, I got my carpenters and boilermakers to restore. And we fitted them with perspex and drawer runners. And we put objects in there that weren't breakable, couldn't be damaged, things that didn't really have a great story, but were interesting to look at, and we thought kids would like to look at them. I actually packed all of these and set them up before we moved. I was a bit nervous about it, but I would not have had time to set it up in the new building. And as it was, it turned out great. The removalists just bubble wrapped, they wrapped and triple wrapped, and the whole thing, picked it up, moved it and opened it, and the display case was already set up in the new building. So that worked out really, really well. So then, well done, you've done your permanent exhibition space. Give yourselves a pat on the back. It's a lot of work. Then we go on to the temporary exhibition space, which is exactly the same process all over again. And I'm still holding the wine. So once you've done that, then we come to the window installation for Cygnet Avenue. This was something that I hadn't planned for, but kind of got thrown at me at the end. It was a window which was on the council side of the building, and they said, oh, that'd be really great if Tamara could do a display for that. And I said, would it? I don't think so. But I got stuck with it. And so what I did, because I was really tired by this point, was I cheated. And so I simply outsourced it. I had a great photo of Lake Illawarra taken from 1928. It was taken from the exact hill that the Civic Centre was being constructed on. So I had that scanned at high res. I rang up my good friend Eric at Simpson Science, and I said, can you make me that to fit that window? And he said, yeah, no worries. So tick, window installation, done. That was too easy. Then we had to develop the Heritage Centre. So the Heritage Centre meant really combining all the archives of the museum and the local studies library together. I had a lot of help, obviously, from the librarians, because I don't do library cataloguing. But when I started to look at the library cataloguing, no offence to any librarians in the room, but the local studies, they're all 929 point whatever. I said, how am I going to find everything? They've all got the same number. This is ridiculous. So in the general lending area of the library, they genreify their collections. So they do history, romance, crime. So it's easier for people to find the collections they're looking for. So I said, why can't we do that in the heritage room? And they all just sort of looked at me. And I said, I want to do that. So I did. So we just genreified them into suburbs. And I thought about the way my customers use the collection. So usually they're searching for particular suburbs. So I've broken them up into Albion Park, Oak Flats, Shellharbour, Kiama, Lake Illawarra, and then I've broken up the family histories into the local family histories and the regional family histories. So if someone wants something on the Durra family, I just go to D for Durra, and there it is. Works really well. So it included cataloguing all of our map collection as well, but the librarians largely did that for me. Conscious of time. We also had to fix up our collections database. So this required, and my volunteers largely did this job. I didn't really touch this because I just had too much to do. They did an awesome job, and it was the only way we could really do it was by doing a massive stock take of the storeroom. So it was to make sure that every object had a place, a proper shelf location. It was numbered, and it was correctly catalogued on our database management system. I knew that had to be done before we moved, because if we didn't get that right for the new building, it just would have been a mess. We wouldn't have been able to find anything, and I wanted a clean, tidy slate in a new building. We had to develop the Tread Shellharbour app museum tour, but that was a pretty easy process. We already had the app, and all I did was, where I could, use existing content. So stuff that we developed for the website, stuff that we developed for the exhibition, for previous heritage trails, for publication. It was largely a matter of cut and paste, and then I just topped it up with visual aids where I could. I kept it simple. Next step was to pack the storeroom, which was exactly the same process as a permanent exhibition space. We colour-coded everything. We did a floor plan for the removalists. We were absolutely ruthless. We took nothing that we did not need. Just get rid of it. If you've got foam core that's been sitting there for 15 years, for the love of God, just throw it in the bin. You're not going to use it. You're never going to use it. Just get rid of it. So we scanned what we could, and we, packed, colour-coded accordingly. That's our plan for the new museum storeroom, which the shelving company guy helped me come up with, and that's my plan. And we actually still use that plan now. I said, well, it works. So every time we put a new box on the shelf, we just give it a colour code according to the shelf location, so that if ever we have to move for any reason again, it's all done. Then we had to develop our website, our branding, our graphic design and our marketing. Our website we outsourced. Obviously, I can't do that, but I did have to give them all the content and all the images and give them an idea of how we wanted it to feel and what pages had to link with other pages. So they were really great, really flexible. And our graphic designer pretty much handled all the marketing, all the branding, all the design work. Like, I couldn't have done it without her. And it was really important, I think, just to pick one person to do all of that, because graphic designers have very different styles. So her style is through all of our branding, which really works for us. Then there was the actual move day. And so move day, I have to tell you, was easy. It was so smooth because we were so organised. So I had all the permanent exhibition stuff there and all the storeroom stuff there. And the removal guys, I provided them with the plans 2 weeks before. They'd come to the museum, they'd done a site visit. I told them exactly what needed to be done. I was there on the day. And then I drove up to the new building with them so that they could unpack. And it just went really, really smoothly, only because we were so organised, I think. This is just my very ugly City Museum transition timeline, but this really helped me keep on track with my key targets. according to the month. So it just kept me on track. And I recommend having one of those if ever you have to move. So this is our Shellharbour City Museum. We moved in December 2017 and we opened to the public in January after Christmas 2018. So we had a couple of weeks to set up, which was actually a lot longer than I thought we were going to have. So all I had to do was coordinate with the signage company to do the installation of the graphics on the cabinets. And because we'd colour-coded all our boxes, the removalists put them exactly where they had to go, and the setup was actually really pretty simple. Everything worked. I just opened a box, pulled out my picture of how I knew it was supposed to look, and set it up. And it really couldn't have gone much better than it did. So there's some before and after shots. There's our old building. God love it. And there we are, squished in like sardines for an opening of something. And there's a photo of our new permanent exhibition space in the Civic Centre. There's Belinda again. There's me and there's Maury from IT, who we roped into that photo. He'll do anything. And then these are some pictures of our Shellharbour Civic Centre, which includes an auditorium, council offices, library, museum, cafe, council chambers and community meeting rooms. And I have to say, it's a pretty snazzy place to work. It's a big step up from the old building, I have to say, and it works really well with us. So lastly, since we've been in the Shellharbour Civic Centre, some of our achievements over the last 12 months have included being a Museums and Galleries New South Wales Imagine Award winner for new build, which was pretty impressive. We've had over 12,000 people visit City Museum. We've had over 53,000 people engage with us online. We've completed over 322 heritage research requests for our customers. We've delivered 37 programs for children and adults. We've installed 7 exhibitions at the Shellharbour Civic Centre, and we're making headway with our Shellharbour Images photograph digitisation project. So the move has been very positive for us, and it ensures that the museum will be sustainable for years into the future. So that's how we moved our museum. And I hope it's given you some tips if ever you have to move yours. Thank you. Thank you.
So any questions? We are running a little late. So does anybody want to know? Up the back there?
Yep.
Hi, Justine from City of Parramatta. Just wanted to ask you, how many staff do you have running the centre now? Still you?
Yeah.
Okay. How many volunteers?
About the same.
About the same? Well done.
Thank you.
Anybody else? One question over there.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Nerida. I'm from Coffs Harbour.
Hi.
Our city's in a similar spot to where you guys were, I think. So
Yep.
we're also planning a big new museum. Do you have any tips for staying sane when there's bad vibes coming from outside in the community?
Bad vibes. Well, actually, we had that as well. And our tip there, a lot of people, some of the suburbs in Shellharbour are very parochial. So a lot of the Albion Park people didn't want the museum to leave Albion Park. They really didn't want it to leave. But our council was pretty good, I have to say, with community engagement. So they held lots of community information sessions. And actually, one of the things that pushed it through was my volunteer, Kevin, museum model extraordinaire builder. He and his wife, Dot, have volunteered at the museum for 30 years. So they were held in really high regard in the Albion Park community because of all the hard work that they had done. And they were totally for the museum moving to a new facility because we were open 2 days a week. It was one room. It wasn't purpose-built as a museum. We couldn't grow for the future. Our storerooms were chockers. It wasn't in a central location. And they felt that the sustainability of the museum, if the museum was to survive, it had to move into this one-stop complex with the council, with the library, with the auditorium. And as it happened, he put his hand up to speak at one of these community forums, and he spoke about it passionately, and told them that when we move to the new building, which we do now, we are open 7 days a week, and the museum doesn't have to be staffed every day, and now it's sustainable for the future. So it's just a matter of informing them. They don't think about these things when they just feel a bit passionate about it. We don't want it taken out of our suburb, but I think when you just inform people honestly, then they get on board. Yeah.
Lucky for Kevin.
Yep, lucky for me. Thank you. Thank you.